A Guide to the Good Life by William B. Irvine. Picture yourself as a powerful Roman senator strolling through the public baths. The air is thick with steam, echoing with chatter and the splash of water. Out of nowhere, a stranger, someone you've never even met, walks up and slaps you across the face. Time seems to freeze. The crowd goes silent. Your cheek burns with the sting of impact and public humiliation. What happens next? Do you explode in rage? Summon the guards. Demand satisfaction. For most of us, fury would surge through our veins. The shame would be unbearable. We'd replay that moment obsessively for days, maybe weeks, letting it poison every waking hour. But this isn't the story of most of us. This is the story of Cato, one of Rome's most revered Stoic philosophers. When the man who struck him suddenly realized his horrible mistake and scrambled to apologize, Cato simply looked at him and said, "I don't remember being struck." He didn't forgive the man, because in his mind, there was nothing to forgive. The incident was so trivial, so completely beneath his concern, that it didn't even register as worth remembering. What kind of mental training, what kind of extraordinary inner strength does it take to reach that level of unshakable calm? That's exactly the question at the heart of the book we're diving into today, A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy by William B. Irvine. Now, you've probably heard the word Stoic before. Maybe you picture someone who's emotionless, grim-faced, enduring suffering with a clenched jaw and stiff upper lip. Someone who's, well, kind of boring. But as Irving discovered on his own fascinating journey, almost everything we think we know about the ancient Stoics is completely wrong. They weren't joyless. In fact, they were absolute masters of joy. They weren't passive hermits. They were emperors, playwrights, entrepreneurs, and teachers who were passionately engaged with the world. And they weren't trying to eliminate emotion, they were trying to perfect it. This book is a rediscovery of their lost art. It's a practical guide to an ancient operating system for the human mind, designed for one crystal-clear purpose: to help you live a truly good life, filled with meaning, purpose, and a deep sense of tranquility. By the end of our time together today, I'm going to share the core psychological tools these Stoics developed, tools that have been used by everyone, from Roman emperors to prisoners of war, to find peace and even joy in the most brutal circumstances. This isn't just a dusty history lesson, it's a blueprint for building an unshakable mind in a world that seems specifically designed to shake us to pieces. Let me start by asking you the same question William Irvine poses at the beginning of his book: what do you want out of life? And I don't mean the small stuff, a new phone, better grades, a fun weekend. I mean the big thing, your grand goal in living. If you had to choose one thing that mattered above everything else, what would it be? It's a surprisingly tough question, isn't it? Most of us have never really sat down and thought about it seriously. Our culture doesn't encourage this kind of reflection. In fact, it bombards us with an endless parade of distractions, so we never have to face it. We spend our lives chasing after some vague combination of wealth, social status, and pleasure, hoping that if we just accumulate enough of these things, we'll finally feel satisfied. But the Stoics warn us that without a clear grand goal, without a genuine philosophy of life, we risk the greatest tragedy imaginable: the danger of misliving. The danger of reaching the end of our days, looking back with crushing regret, and realizing we completely wasted our one and only chance at life. We spent decades pursuing shiny baubles, while something genuinely valuable slipped right through our fingers. So what did the Stoics believe was the most valuable goal of all? It wasn't fame, it wasn't wealth, it was something they called tranquility. Now, tranquility isn't what you might think. It's not some sleepy, zombie-like state you'd get from a pill. Stoic tranquility is a vibrant state of mind, marked by the absence of negative emotions like anger, grief, anxiety, and fear, and the presence of positive emotions, especially a deep and lasting joy. It's a kind of psychological invincibility. It's the profound peace that comes from knowing that whatever chaos erupts in the world around you, your inner world, your mind, can remain calm, steady, and unshakable. But how do we actually achieve this? The Stoics were intensely practical people. They didn't just tell you what to want. They handed you a powerful set of mental tools to get it. And the master key, the foundational tool that unlocks everything else, is an idea from Epictetus, the former slave who became one of history's greatest philosophers. He called it the dichotomy of control. It starts with a simple, life-changing observation. Some things are up to us, and some are not up to us. Sounds obvious, right? But Irvine takes this a step further and refines it into what he calls the trichotomy of control, which is even more useful. He says everything you'll ever encounter in your entire life falls into one of three categories. First, there are things you have complete control over. Second, there are things you have absolutely no control over. And third, there are things you have some, but not complete, control over. Let's break this down. What are the things you have complete control over? It's a surprisingly short list. It includes the goals you set for yourself, the values you choose to live by, and the character you build day by day. You have total power over your own opinions and your own integrity. Then there are the things you have zero control over. Whether the sun rises tomorrow, whether it rains, what other people think of you, and, this is a crucial one, anything that has already happened in the past. The Stoics' first brilliant move is to completely stop worrying about this entire category. It's an absolute waste of your precious time and energy. Worrying about things you can't change is like trying to command the ocean tides. It's utterly futile, and it will only drain you dry. But the most interesting category is the third one, the things you have some but not complete control over. This is where most of actual life happens. Things like winning a tennis match, acing a test, or getting that promotion from your boss. You can definitely influence the outcome, but you can't guarantee it. Your opponent might be having the game of their life. The test might be unfairly difficult. Your boss might be in a terrible mood. So how does a Stoic deal with this? This is where they perform a brilliant mental maneuver. They internalize their goals. Instead of making your goal to win the tennis match, an external outcome you don't fully control, you make your goal to play to the absolute best of your ability in every single moment of that match. That's an internal goal, and it's something you have complete control over. If you do this, you become genuinely invincible. If you lose the match, you haven't actually failed. Your goal wasn't to win. Your goal was to play your absolute best, and you did exactly that. There's no room for disappointment or frustration. And here's the beautiful irony. What better way is there to increase your chances of actually winning than by focusing entirely on playing your absolute best? This single shift in perspective is like gaining a superpower. Your goal isn't to get the A on the test. Your goal is to study with complete focus and prepare as thoroughly as humanly possible. Your goal isn't to make someone love you. Your goal is to become the most genuinely lovable person you can be. By focusing only on what's truly within your control, your effort, your character, your actions, you protect your tranquility from the complete randomness of the outside world. But this raises another fascinating question. If we're focused on our inner world, how do we learn to actually be happy with our outer world, especially when it's far from perfect? We all know that feeling intimately. You work incredibly hard to get something, a new phone, a new car, a new relationship. And for a while, it's absolutely amazing. But then, almost inevitably, the excitement fades. You get used to it. And soon enough, you're looking hungrily for the next new thing. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. It's the satisfaction treadmill. We're constantly chasing a feeling that never seems to last. The Stoics had a solution for this 2,000 years ago. It's a technique that sounds strange at first, maybe even a little dark, but it's perhaps the most powerful tool in their entire arsenal. They called it negative visualization. Here's how it works. On a regular basis, take a quiet moment to vividly imagine that you've lost the things you value most. Imagine your spouse has left you. Imagine your car has been stolen. Imagine you've lost your job. Imagine your health has suddenly failed. This isn't about being morbid or wallowing in pessimism. It's exactly the opposite. It's a clever psychological trick to short-circuit hedonic adaptation. By briefly and calmly contemplating the loss of what you have, you trick your brain into appreciating it all over again. You learn to genuinely want the things you already have. The Stoics would take this practice even further. When you kiss your child goodnight, Epictetus advised, silently remind yourself that she's mortal and that you might not have her tomorrow. When you say goodbye to a friend, remember that it could be the last time you ever see them. Think about two fathers for a moment. The first assumes his daughter will always be there. In the morning, he might grunt from behind his newspaper, barely acknowledging her existence. He postpones playing with her, thinking there's always tomorrow. The second father, the Stoic father, has contemplated his daughter's mortality. When he sees her in the morning, he feels a genuine rush of gratitude that she's still in his life. He seizes every opportunity to connect with her, knowing deep down that these moments are precious and absolutely not guaranteed. Which father do you think experiences more joy on a daily basis? And if the unthinkable were to happen, which father would live with fewer crushing regrets? The Stoics believed we should apply this technique to absolutely everything, including our own lives. The phrase, live each day as if it were your last, isn't a call for wild, reckless hedonism. It's a call to deeply appreciate the simple, astonishing fact that you're alive today. By remembering that this day could genuinely be your last, you're far less likely to squander it. You're much more likely to find wonder in the ordinary, because you suddenly realize that the ordinary is actually an extraordinary gift. This technique is a remarkably powerful antidote to the jadedness that gradually creeps in as we get older. For a young child, the world is endlessly new and amazing. They take almost nothing for granted. But as adults, we get used to things. A breathtaking sunset is just another sunset. A warm, safe home is just a house. Our spouse is just there. Negative visualization is like hitting a reset button on your sense of wonder. It's a way to feel the intense joy of a survivor without actually having to endure the catastrophe. So now we have two powerful tools in our kit: the trichotomy of control to manage our actions and goals, and negative visualization to manage our desires and appreciation. But what about building the actual mental toughness to use these tools when life gets genuinely hard? For this, the Stoics practice something that might sound even stranger: voluntary discomfort. The idea is elegantly simple. From time to time, you should deliberately cause yourself minor discomfort that you could easily avoid. Musonius Rufus suggested underdressing for cold weather or going without shoes for a bit. Seneca recommended practicing poverty, living for a few days on the cheapest food and wearing coarse clothing, just to prove to yourself that you can handle it. Again, this isn't some kind of weird self-punishment. It has three very clear benefits. First, it acts like a vaccine against future misfortune. If you've only ever known comfort, the first time you're forced to be cold or hungry will be genuinely traumatic. But if you've voluntarily experienced these things before, you'll know with certainty that you can handle them. The fear of them loses its power over you. Second, it builds real confidence. By willingly enduring minor discomforts now, you grow increasingly certain that you can handle major ones later. This significantly reduces your overall anxiety about the future. You're actively training yourself to be courageous. And third, it dramatically increases your appreciation for what you have. If you really want to enjoy a warm room, go outside into the bitter cold for a while first. If you want to truly savor a simple meal, wait until you're genuinely hungry to eat it. By purposefully stepping out of your comfort zone, you make that zone a much more joyful place to be when you finally return. This practice extends beyond just physical discomfort to pleasure itself. The Stoics warned that pleasure has a genuinely dark side. It can quietly enslave us. If we can't resist our cravings, we become, as Marcus Aurelius vividly put it, a twitching puppet, helplessly pulled by our every impulse. To build genuine self-control, arguably the most important trait for anyone trying to live a deliberate life, the Stoics would sometimes forego perfectly harmless pleasures. They might pass up a glass of wine, not because they feared getting drunk, but simply to exercise their willpower like a muscle. What the Stoics discovered is that the very act of foregoing pleasure can itself become a source of a different, higher kind of pleasure, the pleasure of self-mastery. As Epictetus cleverly noted, when you resist that tempting bowl of ice cream, you will be pleased and will praise yourself for your strength. This brings us to one of the biggest challenges to our tranquility: other people. Our relationships are the source of our greatest joys, but they're also the source of most of our negative emotions. People insult us, they annoy us, they disappoint us in countless ways. So what do? Become a hermit? The Stoics emphatically said no. We're social animals by nature, and we have a genuine duty to engage with the world and with our fellow humans. The challenge isn't to avoid people altogether, but to learn how to deal with them skillfully without losing our hard-won peace of mind. Their advice for handling insults is pure psychological genius. Remember Cato, who didn't even remember being struck? That's the mindset we're aiming for. When someone insults you, the Stoics offer a whole toolkit of sophisticated responses. First, carefully consider the source of the insult. If it's coming from someone you genuinely respect, like a wise teacher or mentor, then you should actually be grateful for the criticism. It's a valuable gift that helps you improve. If it's from someone you hold in contempt, then their disapproval should actually be a relief. It means you're probably doing something right. As Seneca would dryly say, their insults are no more meaningful than the barking of a dog. You note it briefly, and you move on. Second, ask yourself honestly if the insult is actually true. If someone calls you bald and you are in fact bald, why is it an insult to be told what is self-evident? But the most powerful responses are humor and silence. A witty, self-deprecating comeback demonstrates that you are so completely secure in who you are that their words literally can't touch you. If someone says you have a massive ego, you might cheerfully reply, "You're absolutely right. On most days it's noon before I even realize anyone else is on the planet." This completely deflates the attack. Even better is to offer no response whatsoever. By simply ignoring an insult entirely, you communicate that the insulter and their opinion are so utterly irrelevant that they aren't even worth a single moment of your precious time. This can be far more frustrating for them than any clever counter-insult you could ever dream up. The same logic applies brilliantly to anger. Seneca famously called anger a brief insanity. It's a plague that has cost humanity more suffering than any disease. When we get angry, we almost always make things dramatically worse, and the anger we feel harms us far more than it could ever harm the person we're angry at. The Stoic strategy is elegantly simple. Pause. Remember that people don't actually choose to have faults. Reflect honestly on your own numerous shortcomings, and put the event in its proper cosmic context. As Marcus Aurelius would regularly remind himself, in the vast, incomprehensible scale of the universe, this tiny annoyance is absolutely nothing. Soon enough, we and everyone we know will be gone, and of all this petty drama, not a trace survives today. All these techniques, the trichotomy of control, negative visualization, voluntary discomfort, and strategies for dealing with difficult people, require consistent practice. This is precisely why the Stoics strongly recommended a daily moment of reflection, like a thoughtful bedtime meditation, not an empty-minded meditation like in Zen Buddhism, but an active, engaged one. At the end of each day, you ask yourself probing questions. What failing did I successfully resist today? What personal ailment did I cure? Where can I show genuine improvement? You review your day carefully, not to judge yourself harshly, but to learn from your inevitable mistakes and plan for a better tomorrow. You become your own wise coach. This is the true essence of the Stoic path. It's not a rigid set of inflexible rules, but rather a series of practical mental exercises designed to gradually retrain your mind. It's a transformative journey from being a passive victim of your circumstances and emotions to becoming an active, skillful participant in the challenging art of living. It's about finally understanding that while the world outside may be utterly chaotic and wildly unpredictable, the fortress of your mind can remain calm, orderly, and genuinely joyful if you consciously choose to build it. So why does this ancient philosophy, born 2,000 years ago in Greece and Rome, feel so incredibly relevant today? I think it's because our modern world, for all its dazzling technological wonders, has become an absolute expert at manufacturing the very things the Stoics specifically warned us against: anxiety, distraction, and an insatiable, gnawing desire for more. We're constantly bombarded with sophisticated messages telling us that we aren't enough, that we desperately need a newer car, a better job, more followers, a more luxurious lifestyle to finally be happy. We're actively encouraged to see ourselves as helpless victims of our circumstances, our government, or our past, and to genuinely believe that our happiness is something that must be given to us by someone else. Stoicism is a radical act of rebellion against this entire mindset. It's a bold declaration of personal responsibility. It tells us clearly that while we may not control the events that happen to us, we have absolute control over how we choose to respond to them. It places the power to live a genuinely good life not in the hands of others, but squarely back into our own capable hands. What William Irvine does so masterfully in A Guide to the Good Life is strip away the intimidating academic and historical layers surrounding Stoicism and present it as what it was always meant to be: a practical, usable toolkit for living well. He makes it accessible and engaging, and he gives it a compelling modern justification. The ancient Stoics believed we should live in accordance with nature because Zeus designed us to use reason. Irvine suggests a different, more modern way to think about it, based on evolutionary psychology. He argues persuasively that many of our modern anxieties are actually the result of evolutionary programming that has completely outlived its usefulness. Our ancient ancestors survived because they were intensely anxious about where their next meal was coming from, because they had an insatiable desire for more resources, and because they were hypersensitive to their social status within the tribe. Today, for most of us, those same programs are still running constantly in the background, but they no longer actually help us survive. They just make us chronically miserable. We're essentially using ancient hardware designed for a prehistoric world in a completely modern context. Stoicism, in this fascinating view, is a way to use our most powerful tool, our unique ability to reason, to consciously override that badly outdated programming. It's a practical method to choose tranquility over anxiety, genuine appreciation over insatiability, and authentic self-respect over the desperate, exhausting need for others' approval. So how can you start putting this into practice right now? You don't have to dramatically change your whole life overnight. The Stoics would advise you to start small and be discreet. Practice what Irvine calls stealth stoicism. Here are 3 simple exercises you can try today. First, tonight, practice a quick 30-second negative visualization. As you lie in bed, just before you fall asleep, genuinely contemplate losing one thing you completely take for granted. It could be your comfortable bed, your good health, or the person sleeping peacefully in the next room. Then open your eyes and feel that warm flood of gratitude that you haven't actually lost it. Feel how remarkably lucky you are. Second, the next time you feel a sudden wave of anxiety or frustration washing over you, pause deliberately and apply the trichotomy of control. Ask yourself calmly, regarding this specific situation, what part is completely in my control? What part is completely out of my control? And what part do I only have some influence over? Just the simple act of sorting it out clearly can bring immense clarity and calm. Third, internalize one small goal today. If you have a workout planned, instead of making your goal to lift a certain amount of weight, an external outcome, make your goal to perform every single repetition with perfect form and complete focus, an internal effort. Notice carefully how this shifts your focus from a pass/fail outcome to the quality of your present moment action. In the end, what the Stoics generously offer us is not a fantasy life magically free from difficulty, but a genuine life in which difficulty no longer has the devastating power to destroy our peace. It's a clear path from being a helpless leaf blown chaotically about by the winds of fortune to becoming a deeply rooted tree that can calmly withstand any storm. It's about discovering that the greatest prize in life isn't what you manage to accumulate, but who you steadily become. That was a summary of A Guide to the Good Life by William B. Irvine. We've touched on the core ideas today, but I have to be completely honest with you. A summary can only ever be a rough map. The real treasure is found when you make the journey yourself. The true power of this remarkable book lies in those quiet moments of reading, when one of Seneca's thoughtful letters or a short, piercing passage from Marcus Aurelius speaks directly to a struggle you're facing in your own life right now. This summary is simply your guide to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has genuinely struck a chord, I strongly encourage you to pick up your own copy. Reading it isn't just about passively gaining knowledge. It's an experience that can genuinely recalibrate the entire way you approach your daily life. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey into ancient Stoic wisdom valuable, I'd be truly grateful if you would hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another potentially life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.